Hey everyone, welcome back to the Bitcoin Way Live. I have Tony here with me. Tony, how you doing today?
Fantastic, man. How are you?
I'm good. So, for everyone who is hopping on right now, you noticed that we had a much shorter intro. The echo is fixed because we had no sound.
Because it was gone.
That's
We're living in
that's
it for now.
sometimes that's just how you got to fix problems, my friend. But it's no, it's all good. So for everyone who's hopped on, do us a favor. Let's get the chat going. I know we didn't give people as much time this time around to hop on and start leaving their comments before we started chatting, but I am confident we'll start seeing that fill up. So Tony, a lot of chaos in the world today. How you feeling about everything? I think we still have some impatient Bitcoiners looking at the fiat price.
Of course, man. Most Bitcoiners look at the fiat price because that's how they still measure their wealth is, by how many dollars they have in their bank account. But as we'll discuss very soon, that bank account, a lot of folks are waking up to the harsh reality that it's not theirs. As the millions of crazy conspiracy theorists have been, shouting from the rooftops for so many years now. I think, that message is finally starting to sink in to more heads, right? So there's always good news and bad news, the yin, the yang, in every bad, there's some good, and every good, there's some bad. This is the perfect example of it. And I think as the global situation continues to escalate and deteriorate, that is going to be the silver lining, is getting people to move over to the right side of history by simply, opting out of that disgusting, corrupt, and broken chessboard, which is the fiat legacy system.
Tony, you know what I think one of the coolest things about Bitcoin is how much it simplifies your financial life. So besides the fact that you feel less drawn to a diversified portfolio where you have to think about, balancing what do you have in different asset buckets or whatever. When it comes to like setting financial goals for yourself, like what do I want to earn? There are so many variables outside of your control within the fiat system, like how the stock market performs, for example, what your employer does, to manage inflation related expenses. With Bitcoin, you can just say, I want to stack X number of sats this year, and you can go earn them. You can, if you're behind, you can sell crap at your house that you just don't need. And it's really just one number to think about. Do I have more Bitcoin today? And am I on track to accumulate the amount of Bitcoin, over a course of time that you want to? It just makes everything so much more beautifully simple.
Man, absolutely. And, I've been saying this forever. I mean, Bitcoin, like it takes a really special kind of skill to fail at Bitcoin, considering at how simple it is, right? You learn how to use it, you save in it, and you use it as money. And you can delete pretty much at least a dozen folks that you no longer need to call when it comes to dealing with your money. You don't need any of them, right?
Yeah.
Peer-to-peer electronic cash. Send anywhere, anytime, any amount. No form to fill, no permission to ask. That's why they call it the FU, freedom money, right?
Absolutely.
But you need people to go through hell, apparently, to come to that conclusion. We're trying to save folks the hell experience, but some people are just like gluttons for pain, it seems.
It does seem that way. All right, Tony, we got some comments rolling in here. We've got Denture Depot says howdy. Oh, and by the way, he also says anyone need dentures and want to pay in Bitcoin, call us.
This is the way, man. This is the way. I'm sure you're going to unleash an entire market that you would have never had access to had you not made that statement, my friend.
Absolutely. Everyone go support Denture Depot if you need dentures. And Tony, he also says Tony is our hero. So
thank you, brother. Thank you. We are all heroes. Anyone on the side of Bitcoin is a hero to humanity. That is for sure.
Well said. Cobb O'Brien says, hi guys. Cobb, good to have you back. I hope I'm saying that right. It's not like Cobb O'Brien or something, but I think it's Cobb O'Brien.
Welcome,
Tony.
Guys. Welcome. Happy to have all of you here with us. Please engage in the conversation. Hit us with your comments. Hit us with your questions. Agree, disagree. Let us know. It's all good.
Absolutely. Hey, Goober watched the Bitcoin Katie interview with you, Tony, and said it was fire. Hey, so real quick comment on this. So, Tony, I want you to talk a little bit about the interview. I just want to say I want to give a shout out to Bitcoin Katie. So she is a partner of ours, and just she aligns very well philosophically with what we do, and she wants people taking self custody. And she actually came to so she partnered with us, shared the Bitcoin way as a resource for some time, and she came back to me fairly recently, and she said, "Hey, I would like to." Make a more concerted effort to promote you guys and what you guys are working on. She's like, and this is what I think is interesting, and I hope I'm not oversharing, but she said, look, I get emails from people who want to pay me to shill their products all the time. And I'm just like, I'm not comfortable with so many of these and like custodial solutions. Right. And I want to make I would rather us collaborate in a more meaningful way. So I'm sending people to a place that I've used personally, and also that that I just have faith in the mission that they're on. And so we shared a post she had written about her experience with us as a client to our newsletter subscribers. It was on her Substack originally. She had Tony on. I've been on her show. So she's just an awesome person doing awesome things for Bitcoin. I'd encourage you to go check out her channel, her Substack, and everything else that she's doing.
The thing is, with anyone making content, man, you have to be very careful about the long-term ramifications of shilling a product, which in fact, comes with a lot of counterparty risk. I know a lot of, content, makers out there aren't thinking that way, but, this is usually how something good turns into a nightmare. Yeah. And so if you're focused on Bitcoin, just focus on pure Bitcoin signal. Like you cannot have, at least as far as I'm concerned, you cannot have a foot in the legacy world and a foot in Bitcoin at the same time. You pick a side and you stick with it, because otherwise, it will come back to haunt you. All of these services that are shilling, borrowing against your Bitcoin, and similar products, the people behind them aren't bad people, but the product itself lives in a rigged game, right? And the people who make the rules for these games have very bad intentions. So if you're indirectly, promoting them and it blows up and people start losing their money, well, they're going to blame you because that's where they heard it from, right? So if you don't want, to assume that, down the road, potential headache, just avoid it altogether, which is why I heavily encourage, these conferences that really focus on pure Bitcoin signal and kick away the shitcoin sponsors, even though, people might say, yeah, but you're losing money. Not losing anything. It's either clean and pure, or it's hypocritical,
or it's not worth it. Yeah, and it's one of the reasons we've avoided having sponsors on our show generally, and we've talked about this internally. If we ever did that, we would. First of all, you can imagine they would be high signal sponsors, and particularly for myself, like as the moderator, the person who's faces on the podcast, pretty much all the videos. My strong preference would be it's a brand that I believed in long before we ever started talking about them. In the meantime, we're just happy to get to do this stuff and send out pure signal on our own without having to shill anyone. Yeah, Tony, we've got. Oh yeah, hey, Cobb O'Brien said he listened to.
Thanks, Goober. Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, this is it's awesome to see people are already tuning into all of this stuff. We got a good morning from Swamp Stomper. We've got, let's see. Yeah. Okay. Cobb O'Brien from Ireland. Welcome.
Welcome, guys. Welcome. Very happy to have all of you here with us. This is great.
Tony, are you?
Very possible. Very not confirmed yet, but it's on my things to look into.
Yeah. I don't. When is Lugano?
It's I believe it's in October, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, you're gonna have to. I'll have baby number 4. It will be just a couple months old. So Tony, you're gonna have to.
You're gonna have to find a better hobby, man.
Dude, there's no better hobby. there's hobbies that give you better sleep. Let's see. We've got Rockabilly 1. Just started my first miners.
Nice, man. Just in time too. The difficulty just tanked. A good way now. So your chances just went up.
Yep. Let's see. Morning from Claude's back. Claude, good to have you, man. Elaine, good morning. Maxie's always good to see you.
Elaine, good morning.
I learned a lot about Elaine on the last one. I had my unpopular opinion, and she agreed all too quickly, which makes me makes me worried for both of us. Kelly the Good is back. Hey everyone, so good to have you. And G Fuzzy says, looks like we won't have a 6-month red candle. I think
there's never any red candles, guys, in Bitcoin. There's never any candles in Bitcoin. It's just orange 24/7. Stop looking at that damn chart, guys.
The yield on Bitcoin is freedom, folks.
The yield on Bitcoin is that no one in this universe can stop you from transacting in your savings.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you all for chiming into the chat. Keep it up. Ask questions. Leave your comments. Tony, let's
get into this, man. Today's a hot news day.
Yeah, man. Okay. So this is this French judge, I'm not even gonna try his last name, but Nicholas, who issued it. He's the guy who at the International Criminal Court, I think is the ICC, he issued an arrest warrant for Netanyahu. We're not going down the Netanyahu Israel rabbit hole, everyone. Don't worry. The important takeaway here is he said something unpopular. He said something he's not supposed to say. And what happened is that Visa and MasterCard have blocked his cards. He cannot make any purchases. He says, I'm a judge. I'm being treated like a criminal. So this is the interesting thing here is that Macron, the French president, is trying to intervene and U.S. authorities have not responded. So let's assume that's true, that Macron did something actually right for the first time in history. And this guy's being, he's financial censorship. And you know what? It's not just financial censorship. It's censorship of speech. You can't say this, or we use financial censorship to enforce it, to set an example. And I think this is coming for a hell of a lot more people than just one ICC judge in France. But Tony, why don't you weigh in here?
This is good news and bad news. It's terrible news for that poor judge, but the silver lining in all of this is that it takes people like him to get a taste of the shit that we've been talking about for years, for things to start to change. I mean, when you have a high-level judge being sanctioned like Russia for committing nothing, essentially doing his job, what does that tell you about everybody else? What does that tell you about the money that you're working for? Is it of anything of value? When you see who the people behind it are, you see that there is no fairness in the system, that it's a rigged Ponzi from day one that can be weaponized against anyone for any given reason. If a judge is treated like a criminal, they'll shut down everybody's account for the dumbest reasons, if they want to give you a reason, right?
Yeah.
And the reason we're seeing all these extreme stories right now is because the whole thing is dying. And this is like, desperate grabs to remain relevant and in power. I don't know how this unfolds, and we can only speculate, but it can't be good. It can't be like a pretty picture. And the only way to protect yourself really is, like, again, as we keep on saying, get off that bloody chessboard. Put your savings in something that is not susceptible to going down in flames along with the dollar and every other fiat currency, or worse, being locked in and converted into a stable coin for your convenience and protection, only to lock you into a digital gulag once they turn the on switch to that central bank digital currency, also known as your famous stable coin, for those that are still cheering that on.
Yeah, here's the thing. There are a lot of people who I think would push back, Tony, and say, well, Bitcoin's not accepted in enough places, so even if my bank account got shut down. What I would argue, though, is it'll be much easier to find someone sympathetic to your situation and say, hey, I'll accept your Bitcoin, even though I'm not like a Bitcoin person, and I'll sell it for fiat so I can get the cash that I need. And then it is for you to get them to accept your Visa or MasterCard that has been completely wiped from their system and doesn't work anymore. So it still gives you that option out. It at the very least, it gives you hope that you can go buy something. If you're operating within the fiat system and they freeze your account, they cut up your credit cards, you are completely screwed. There is nothing that you can do about that. The French president can't do anything for him, apparently. what's anyone else going to do? Absolutely nothing. And the bank's not going to let them withdraw cash. Like Bitcoin is your only solution, unless you want to go try lugging around a bunch of gold. I mean, that's it.
Yeah, as people in the Middle East have, very brutally found out that this was a very bad decision. All the gains in gold have been wiped out in just a few days. If you can sell them, you're getting a 30% haircut on them because people are realizing that you can't move around this stuff and it's of little use in a digital world, right? And so all of these facts that, Bitcoiners have been talking about for years, they're all happening at once. This is like the good news and the bad news in a bad situation, is that people are realizing all of these things. And when you say like it's not accepted everywhere, yes, that's a fact, but encourage merchants to adopt it. Like this Bitcoin is a bottoms up movement. Compared to 3 years ago, almost everything that I want to buy now is payable in Bitcoin. Like, I mean, I have to really think about something that I cannot pay in Bitcoin. That's how much the adoption is growing. And if you read the right headlines, there's a lot of news about big companies now that are not only adopting Bitcoin payments, but are heavily marketing the incentives to be paid in sound money. Like if you look at that massive supermarket chain in Europe, the Carrefour, for example, is giving a 20% discount to anyone who pays them in Bitcoin. Why? They don't want the worthless euro. They want sound money, and their business has boomed because of it. Same thing in the US. Look at the famous chain Steak and Shake. Are their burgers lined in diamonds? No. Has their business tripled? Yes. Why? Because they accept sound money, and Bitcoiners go out of their way to support these businesses. So if you're a business or you offer a product or service to the market, you will unlock a massive ocean of people that you will never have access to just by accepting the money they want to pay you in. And besides, it's the money you want to accept, because if you do nothing, that worthless piece of paper is going to zero, and the high price problem is going to continue getting worse and worse and worse. So two things in this decaying globe that we live on. You need to protect your purchasing power. That's the money. Bitcoin and self-custody. Self-custody is a must. It's not a negotiation. If you don't own it, it's not yours. So that's one. The other thing, you need to get out of a jurisdiction that is bad for you. If you're always harassed by over-regulations, over-taxations, threats of God knows what, pack your stuff and leave. I get it's a big decision sometimes. I get that it's not easy. But the alternative is a literal life of hell and like a digital concentration camp, right? So the discomfort, the short-term discomfort, in my opinion, is well worth the long-term freedom aspect of your entire life, especially if you have a family that's dependent on you.
I completely agree with that. Tony, we've got a lot of comments rolling in here. Well, some of them unrelated to the topic, but I got to pull this up. Ron, good to have you back. Tony, the legendary Bitcoin peaceful warrior.
How's it going, Ron? Good to have you with us, brother.
All righty. So let's see. Rockabilly, you have so many ways to spend Bitcoin if you want.
I couldn't agree more, man. I don't know anyone who won't accept Bitcoin.
Yeah. Everywhere that uses Square in the USA will automatically be accepting Bitcoin at the end of the month.
Voila. You took the words right out of my mouth. Now Square made it a default. You don't, like, the merchant doesn't have to do anything. Just by having Square, you're accepting Bitcoin, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. Strike is an option to spend. There are tons of options you can spend with no name on it. And then this is, Tony, I know this one's going to resonate with you from Claude. Employees need to tell their employers they want to be paid in Bitcoin.
Well, that's not a problem that we have here at the Bitcoin Way, guys, because everything we do since day one is 100% Bitcoin based, in and out.
Absolutely. Yeah. They would have gotten rid of me if I'd asked if I could be paid in fiat, and they couldn't have done it anyway. Bob Lucas, I previously went to Steak and Shake once in 6 years. In the past year, I've been there 6 times paying with Bitcoin. Bob,
there you go, man. There you go. Well done, Bob.
So for the longest time, so after church on Sundays, we take my family to just like a sort of a fun lunch, and for the longest time we were just going to some Fiat burger joint. Once Steak and Shake adopted the Bitcoin,
Easy choice.
Yeah, there's one 2 minutes from our church. Like yesterday, I was there with the kids, having a blast, having some good burgers and beef tallow fries. I mean, it's hard to beat. But
The
Tony,
burgers
hey,
and fries taste much better, don't they? When it's paid in sats.
it's beautiful. And I'm having my kids like scan the QR code, like sending their first Bitcoin transactions. But hey, Tony, I was going to show this story last, but this is related to what we're talking about now.
Yes.
So this is the cheat code, guys. If and by the way, who's the dentures guy? You're onto something. So Oshi Rewards analyzed 50,000 plus shoppers and 100,000 plus orders across their merchant network. Bitcoin customers are nearly 3 times more valuable than the average customer. And this is lagging a little bit on me. They spend 38% more on their very first purchase. They keep coming back. Nearly 3 out of 4 regular customers buy once and disappear. The majority of Bitcoin customers return, 50% more likely to make a repeat purchase. Like here's the thing. This isn't going to last forever, because someday Bitcoin acceptance is going to be ubiquitous. And so you can't support every company, but the businesses who are doing this early, the Steak and Shakes of the world, right? The Carrefours of Europe, someone selling dentures. I mean, whatever the service is, you're going to be way ahead of the curve on this. And for the next couple of years, I don't know, it depends on how long it takes, you're going to be the one resource in your little niche that everyone wants to use. And I think you're going to have much better customers for it.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I've met thousands of Bitcoiners, and I can tell you there's a common denominator across all of them. First of all, if we're talking about real Bitcoiners, people that really believe in sound money, separation of money and state and all that stuff, these are extremely well-educated, well-informed, well-awake folks that are extremely loyal. And so at the same time, they are, in the camp of quality over junk. And so they are extremely, picky over where they spend their sats on, considering they know how scarce it is. So when they find someone that is worthy of their business, believe me, they support that business 100%. And the word of mouth that comes about it is extremely strong. And that incentivizes every other merchant to up their game in order to be part of that market space. So Bitcoiners are a different breed, and if you want to be have your foot in the door early before it becomes really everywhere, now is the time to do it. If you offer a service, give a discount on your service. That's how you're going to incentivize your clients to pay you in Bitcoin. Even those that have never done it before, if there's a 20% off, they will figure it out to get the 20% off. And for you, it doesn't really matter, man, because you're holding the world's scarcest asset. So your purchasing power is going to go up, and that discount will be like a memory of the past. And everybody wins. Your clients win, you win. People get to understand that Bitcoin is money. It's not a bloody speculation or investment for worthless dollars. It's the money itself and must be used as such.
Well said. One question: will this trigger capital gains taxes paying with Bitcoin using the Square terminals?
Tony, I have no idea, man.
Yeah, if anyone knows the answer to this, chime in. I remember thinking that there was some sort of technical wizardry that they used to make it such that the conversion happened in a way that there isn't. But I don't remember the details of that, and I don't want to commit to a response without knowing with certainty. Let's see. Question. What's the best place to list a business in Houston to let people know you accept Bitcoin? What is it? BTC Map, Tony? Is that the one that?
Yeah, btcmap.org is a really good starting position. And just to let it be known, man, not invest. I mean, go buy yourself some of these, Bitcoin accepted stickers or pamphlets, and just spread them, put them on people's windshields and cars and stuff like that, along with your card or any brochures. If you do that sort of thing, stick it on if you have a store, stick it on your front door, that type of thing. People notice, and word of mouth about anything Bitcoin today, since considering how early and so prestigious it still is, like it'll spread like wildfire.
Yes. And I think I think we have a team member down in Houston now. I'm not going to dox him, but maybe if he needs dentures, we can send him your way. This is awesome. Yeah, Denture Depot. You have a storefront. That's awesome. Hey Tony, we've got someone in here. CryoBrick wants to send a CryoBrick your way. What is a CryoBrick? I'm not familiar with this tool, but I'm sure Tony would love to take a look at it if it's Bitcoin only, if it's open source.
I will check it out, CryoBrick. Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Okay, Tony. So BTC Map, go check there. And where I am, by the way, not most of the people who I've paid in Bitcoin locally have been people who I have gone out of my way to ask them to pay in Bitcoin. Besides, my map is littered with Steak and Shakes and not a whole lot else. So some of it is just put in the effort to find those people or to turn them into people who accept Bitcoin personally. But we're going to see, especially with Square now, 4 million merchants in Square. That's going to be
one of my very early orange pilling success stories was, funny enough, my barber. So yes, I do go to a barber sometimes. I used to anyhow, and he was hesitant, to accept Bitcoin until I forced him to do it by giving him an offer he couldn't refuse. I essentially told him, I'll pay you twice. I'll pay you, once in cash and the same amount in Bitcoin. And so he had nothing to lose, right? Anyhow, fast forward from that day on with a sticker that I plastered on his front door. After about a year, we're talking about like 5-6 years ago. After about a year, he had almost an entire coin just from his business. And this is from someone who thought nobody does Bitcoin, nobody pays in Bitcoin. And he was like mocking it. He couldn't believe his eyes when he accumulated almost 1 Bitcoin. And he couldn't sell it, right? Because I only taught him how to receive it. I didn't show him how to send it. And so that lesson served him well. And now he's been investing his own money, converting his, worthless paper to sound money. And I think he's up to, I don't know, like a few coins at this stage. So I'm very, very happy for him.
Hey, Tony, and just to be clear for everyone listening, we do train our clients both on sending and receiving. So only our personal barbers do we only show them how to receive coins. So you learn all the skills at the
That's a good trick if you want to orange pill someone at a restaurant, for example, like if you're giving a waiter a tip, show them how to receive, don't show them how to send, because then of course they're gonna go and blow it away at the first opportunity that they have.
Absolutely. This is an interesting question. From Personal Budgeting 3, will Bitcoin destroy the dictatorship in North Korea?
Eventually, man. Eventually, when Bitcoin becomes like a global neutral standard of money, people who don't adopt it will be like locking themselves out of the whole global economic workforce. So they will be forced to take it in. And of course, once Bitcoin finds its way into the hands of folks who understand it, and that won't take very long, it's done. This is why the legacy system absolutely hates Bitcoin.
Tony, this is Saifedean's gunpowder analogy. Like you could have opted out of gunpowder when it started being used in military applications, but doing so would have meant your destruction. And I think the same is going to be true because right now North Korea has their and by the way, I'm making no commentary on North Korea or any of their allies, but they have allies who are willing to transact with them in whatever fiat currency. When the day comes that the only thing that China or Russia or whoever their allies are or their trading partners want is Bitcoin, they're going to have Bitcoin. And in order to have Bitcoin, they're not going to go set up an account at river.com. They're going to have to generate Bitcoin in economic activity, right? Like they're going to need to do this in a real substantial, meaningful way.
Well, look, any country that's been sanctioned, any individual that has had his account stolen or denied, anyone who's been restricted from having a bank account, anyone who's been kicked out completely from the financial system in any way, shape, or form, today, I'd say there's an extremely high chance, I'd give it like a 95% certainty that they're using Bitcoin.
Tony, personal budgeting asks, so for you, Tony, how did you leave Lebanon if you had no money when everything shut down?
That was a long and painful ride, my friend, that took almost a year. Very dark part, very dark part of my life. Essentially, when your entire like savings are confiscated, you are thrown back into the Stone Age. So there's nothing under the sun that you don't learn or accept doing in order to make ends meet. This is the time when you're stripped down to your DNA level and you find out what you're really made of. So your ego, you have to make it disappear, man. Everything is a goal.
Tony, I think we've got a highlighted clip coming out on our YouTube channel today where you talked about that with Cedric Youngelman on the Bitcoin podcast. So go check that podcast out.
It was a very slow and painful process to leave.
He's also asking for you, Tony, how are you fully on a Bitcoin? I assume that means Bitcoin standard in regards to paying bills and everything. I want to opt out of fiat completely, but don't know how to pay my bills. Only.
That's a separate conversation. But essentially, there's two ways to do this. One, if you're living in a jurisdiction that is Bitcoin friendly, of course, that becomes much easier. So if you find merchants that have what you want and you can pay them natively in Bitcoin, that's fine. That works. In the situations where you cannot pay in Bitcoin or it's not accepted yet, there are many debit cards out there that you can power with your Bitcoin, which in fact will convert the Bitcoin to whatever local currency you're paying in to pay for that item in question. So in some cases, you might have to use both at the same time. But ultimately, you can call that living on a Bitcoin standard and using the tools at your disposal in order to make ends meet.
Yeah, there's going to be a natural progression, and certainly for most people, where living on a Bitcoin standard isn't precisely what we want it to be, but it's leveraging our Bitcoin, not taking leverage on our Bitcoin, but leveraging our Bitcoin to the extent possible, while acknowledging that there are going to be many people who are only accepting fiat on the back end. I mean, it's sort of like, you go to a merchant with a Square terminal, and you might pay in a Lightning invoice, but they're just receiving fiat on the back end. You can't do anything about what their choice to opt out of Bitcoin, at least for now. But you can do something about your efforts to show them, like, hey, I'm paying with Lightning. I'm not swiping my credit card. In each non-swipe of a credit card, and each time you don't hand over physical fiat cash, is a signal to the merchant. They're going to be able to look at the back end of their point of sale system at the end of the year and see, are people using this? Oh, maybe we should begin accepting it. Like, we want to receive Bitcoin. Obviously we accept it because Square says so, but we want to actually hold some of this stuff. And maybe we want to pay some of our bills, in Bitcoin, because now we have a stash that we didn't have before.
Look, eventually there's going to come a point in time where it doesn't make any logical sense not to accept Bitcoin, because otherwise you're just going to be stacking, tons and tons of paper. I mean, the funny thing is, in Lebanon, when everything hyperinflated, if you wanted to go buy, I don't know, man, like a chicken, you literally needed a suitcase, your travel suitcase. You had to fill it all up with that worthless garbage paper in order to pay for that stupid chicken. That's how worthless the money becomes.
It is crazy. Can be. What Tony went through is where your Christian faith becomes stronger. I'll say for myself, that's certainly true. So Tony, we've got a handful of other stories I want to get to. So we started this off with this French judge being financially censored because of what he did with Netanyahu. And then we had this other story, completely unrelated, right? Except for it tells the exact same tale. So this guy had a brokerage account at Robinhood. He didn't $100, right? Not a lot. He didn't log in for 3 years. And now the state wants to transfer his money out of his account into the state's account simply because he didn't log in. So he got this notice from Robinhood, basically, hey, we're going to move these to the state. They're going to take your money because you haven't accessed it recently enough for us. So it's no longer your money.
Well, you
Tony.
see, again, the funny, not funny stories,
Yeah.
right? But I'm happy they happen, not for the poor guy who's going through this, but for people to realize that every financial product in the legacy system is a joke. It is like it's lent to you under the illusion that you own it, but you don't own anything. And when things, break, you hear stories like this one, where people are like thrown out of their accounts, no reason given. You haven't logged in. It could have been because, it was raining 3 days in a row. They can come up with any excuse. That entire system, the fiat system, was created to steal, censor, and control. Everything built in it is susceptible to this type of headline. So whatever it is you think you own in the fiat world, just understand it's not yours. And
Right.
unless you have an army to protect it, you might receive a letter like this, or you might wake up like I did with access to nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Tony Cabo Bryan said, "Opt for cash payment over card payments is the better until Bitcoin payment is more widespread." Yeah, that's a step in the right. It at least gives you some transactional privacy, and honestly, in the interim, before the world moves to a Bitcoin standard, it gives us the demand for physical cash. It makes it much harder for governments to just say cash is going away, which is obviously the direction we're headed with Tether's going to be the CBDC, or Circle, something's going to be the CBDC. As long as we can prolong that to give more people time to figure out Bitcoin, I think we all benefit from that.
Listen, the whole dystopian world of central bank digital currencies and digital IDs only works if there's 100% compliance. Otherwise, it doesn't work. It cannot work. Which is why you start seeing and reading about these extreme cases that, or extreme measures that are being pushed through. It's because they want to force you into that world, because otherwise they wither away to irrelevancy. And the more we read these stories, there's going to be more people out there that are simply going to say no. And there's nothing you can do to stop that, unless, of course, they're planning on waging a genocide against the entire planet, which I find that not very smart and not very likely to give the results that they're looking for. And besides, there's a lot of jurisdictions on the planet that are not going to participate. In fact, they're doing the extreme opposite of anything dystopian. These are the jurisdictions that we're focusing on. These are the jurisdictions that tons of people are packing up and just moving towards, because why wouldn't you do that if you value your freedom?
Yes, well said. Personal budgeting sounds like he just wants my opinion on. He has a second passport or revoke his citizenship to get out of the citizenship tax base. What are your thoughts? Yeah, so it's something that I've thought long and hard about with because obviously, like, Tony sits here raving about Panama, and like I've had the gentleman who runs the eco villages, Veritas villages down in Panama on the podcast, and it really gets you fired up when you hear that. I'm probably in the camp of for me personally, I don't think this is probably the right decision for a lot of people. I have a very unique setup in that my immediate family lives on a compound together, and we've got firearms for days, and we've got our own food supplies and local farmers, and that. I think in the absence of what I'm fortunate to have, the first purchase I would make would be a plan B. Like he's sold me on the benefit of this, and I think that's something that many people need to strongly consider. Tony, I'll let you chime in on. There's a huge hurdle to overcome mentally, I think, when it comes to revoking citizenship. And that's not, I know Tony would say, well, yeah, do it if they're screwing you, especially with the US. Like, it doesn't matter where you earn your income, you're paying taxes. Unless hypothetically you earn a non-KYC Bitcoin and they don't know that you're earning that money. And I'm not suggesting anyone evade taxes. But for many people, they're in the fiat system being paid in fiat, and they're taking your taxes before it even hits your checking account.
Yeah, man. Like, I mean, the American passport is the only one that taxes you based on citizenship versus residency, everywhere else. It's a hard decision to make. Of course, we can't advise anyone whether to do it or not. But what I can tell you is that we have a lot of clients, well, not a lot, but like enough that have given it up. The process is very expensive. Like they make it expensive. So of course they incentivize you from doing that. But those that we spoke to have taken this decision, I think about 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago, something around that. When they did it, they were, they're in their own words, like sick to their stomachs. But the rest, after paying everything and doing everything, legally, they put the rest in Bitcoin. Back then it was, I don't know, like 19 grand or something like that. So like you fast forward to today, when we speak to the same people, they don't remember these days. That's why they laugh about them. They're like, oh my gosh, it was the best decision we ever made. But you absolutely need a second passport before you even contemplate giving up your US one, if that's the only one you're holding. So if you're planning on doing this, step one, secure your second one first, then go through that hellish nightmare. And it's like a Band-Aid that you're going to rip off. It's going to hurt, but then you'll be fine once it's done.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of framing it. Let's see, just a nice shout out. The Bitcoin Way is the best service available. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And then Claude is there's an exit. There's always an exit tax, right?
We
saw that in, Tony, was it the Netherlands who they were planning the unrealized capital gains taxes? They backed off, at least for now, on that
unrealized capital gains tax of 36%. Look how sweet these thieves are. They
still have an exit tax though, because now the billionaires, the multimillionaires, they've been put on alert that this is probably coming at some point, even if they're
trying to pass an exit tax. I don't know if they passed it or if it's been there for a while, but
I think they've had one, and they were talking about. I looked into this back when this was kind of a lead story for us, it sounds to me like that's been in place, but maybe they were going to expand it in some capacity.
Well, if this becomes a trend, you want to consider getting yourself a second or third or fourth residency before you find yourself in an exit tax situation. Again, like not all countries are going to be playing these games, but if you're currently in a jurisdiction that wants to keep you locked in within its borders, then you probably want to act sooner rather than later. And of course, we can assist you with the entire process of Plan B. I mean, we handhold you to the entire process. All you need to do is pay the bill and show up. All the legwork is handled for you.
Yes, it's a beautiful process, and we get Tony in a minute. I'm gonna when I have a second, I'm gonna try to find the webinar we did with Adam Hudson.
Yeah, that would be a very useful one for folks to watch. Guys, if you're liking this, please smash the like button and share news about this live stream with everyone that could potentially join us, benefit from these conversations. I mean, we love growing these circular economies. The more, the merrier.
CryoBrick said, you can't take, I'm guessing we just learned what the product is. You can't take your hardware wallet with you when you want to leave a jurisdiction in an emergency, but a hardware wallet disguised as a feature phone and functions like one can be carried anywhere. So Tony, that might be a hint as to what you're.
Yep. That's a valid point.
The other thing, I'll just show my friends over at Microseed. They've got a really cool setup for you to stamp your seed phrase into a washer, and so you can do a nylon washer, so you can carry it through airport security. Very discreet and easy to handle, and it would be nearly impossible for anyone to imagine what would be on something like that. So definitely something worth considering for everyone. Tony, we've talked about, hang on. We got some more stuff we need to share here. So a lot of these are somewhat related. So this is the head of the Iranian parliament, and he tweeted out, in addition to military bases, those financial institutions that fund the U.S. military are considered legitimate targets. So think about this, guys. The U.S. Treasury bonds are tainted with the blood of Iranians. If you proceed to purchase them, you are in fact attacking your own assets and primary headquarters. We are monitoring your investment portfolios. Again, Tony, my concern is that when we talk about these things, because I'm so disgusted by what the United States is doing, people assume, well, you must be Team Iran. And that's not what I'm saying, because Iran is full of politicians and they've got terrible people doing terrible things too. This isn't I'm not picking a tribe here. I'm just calling out the blatant nonsense when I see it. And here's the thing, I'm going to frame this out. And then Tony, I want your comment. there are people who I saw, Bitcoiners, who replied to this and said, this is like a new level of financial terrorism. And what I would say is that put yourself in the position of the Iranians, because if the U.S. attacked their financial center, attacked their banks, attacked their sources of funding for fighting this war, we would all Americans would be cheering that on and saying, yeah, that's what we need to do. That's what Iran is proposing to do. They're saying we're going to cut the snake off at its head. We're going to cut off the funding mechanism, and that's the banks. Those are the institutions who are buying, selling, trading bonds that are funding the war, government debt that funds the war. So I'm not an Iranian sympathizer, but I can sympathize with particular aspects of what they're choosing to do in light of the circumstances that they've been put into. So I don't know, Tony, why don't you give your thoughts?
No, you're spot on, man. And comments like, financial terrorism, like they're so ignorant and myopic, like they're beyond absurd. What do you call when people cut others off from the banking system entirely, or they restrict access to individuals because some asshole decided that they didn't like what they said or wrote somewhere? Like what do you call that? When you sanction entire countries and cut off their people from the traditional rails of earning and saving their hard-earned time and energy. Like, what do you call that? It's only bad when other people's reply. Well, who starts all this instigation in the first place? Why don't you start asking yourself that question? Eventually, when you keep poking you're poking trouble where you're nobody's asking for your input. Eventually, somebody's gonna poke back. And so this is what I was saying earlier, that a lot of Americans are realizing now that these problems, they don't remain foreign problems. At some point, they come home, and and now they're headed home. And so, if this headline has any substance to it, well, then a lot of your financial troubles might be solved because there is no more establishment to complain to if they succeed with taking them out. It's bad news for anyone still stuck in this world. You understand? Like, these are bad people across the board.
Yeah.
Left, right, up, down. It's the same disgusting system, no matter which way you look at it. So if you don't want to be a casualty of it, now for the first time, thank God, since 2009, you can completely get off that board into the money that is not affected by all of this insanity. You're just sitting on the sidelines watching the whole thing, crash and burn.
So real quick, before I forget, I'm going to share, I just threw it in the chat, or I'm throwing it in the chat right now. This is a link to the fireside chat that Tony and Adam Hudson did together. So Tony he was in Panama recently getting his residency. And while he was there, we did this sort of live stream webinar sort of thing where he walked through his decision to leave Australia, some of the geographical arbitrage, jurisdictional arbitrage that he's doing, and how mechanically it all works. And I think Adam is an incredibly successful guy, serial entrepreneur, super smart. I think this was probably one of the best presentations that I have heard on why and how and all of the details surrounding this. So go check it out. Admittedly, it's at the end we talk a lot specifically about Panama, but I think hopefully it'll give you some clarity as to how.
Are you dropping the link here, or are you dropping it later in the description?
No, I threw it in the chat, so okay. People should be able to see it if they're following. So there's just been one comment since.
Highly recommended to watch, guys. There's a lot of information in there, and of course, if there's anything missing, feel free to reach out. I mean, we offer complimentary welcome call to everyone to answer any of your questions.
Yeah, scan the QR code there to schedule a call. We could talk to you about the Plan B residency, as Tony obviously talked about at the beginning, the importance of self-custody, and it could be 30 minutes of your life, no cost to you, just 30 minutes. That changes everything about how you view protecting your wealth, how you view how you're going to operate in this world where things are just kind of going crazy. So I would strongly encourage that. Tony, so we have the Iranians talking about potentially targeting financial institutions, and of course These sorts of actions don't come without
You pay the price.
yeah. So we start the war, you pay the price. The Department of State is advising Americans worldwide to exercise increased caution. To which I would say, no shit. That's probably to be expected. And I don't even know. It's just clown world, man. It's clown world on full display. Like the minute the United States intervened, they could have told everyone, hey, like, be careful if you're an American walking around somewhere else in the world, because this is exactly what happens. Everyone becomes suspicious of you. People are pissed off. They take out their frustration on the first. There's nothing they can do to attack DC, and so they attack the first person who they think kind of represents DC. And now we have to deal with the fallout from that. So hopefully by the time I get to Prague this summer, some of the I got to make sure I really pay close attention to what airports I'm flying through as I make my way to speak on the stage.
Well, remember when you asked me at one point, why do so many foreigners hate Americans? I'm like, where did you get that from? They don't hate Americans. They don't like what the American government is doing in their countries. Yeah. And so, but when you ask that question in a time that's heated, like now, everybody's bundled into the same basket.
Yeah.
So government, citizen, like nobody's thinking rationally at this point.
Yeah, I think that's it. No one's thinking rationally about it. In their mind, like deep down, they understand the U.S. government is who I hate. But you sort of begin to just bucket it all together and say,
well, how can you think rationally? There's bloody rockets landing on your head every 5 minutes.
Yeah, fair. I shouldn't hold them to a particularly high standard. It's just survival mode, and
of course,
Kelly the Good said, highly recommend hopping on a call. It's a game changer. Thank you so much, Kelly. And Elaine is going to watch that live stream we did with Adam. It truly is. I think it's probably the best live stream we've done. We've been doing them for a couple of years. And
it was really fantastic. We had, I don't know, like 1,100 people tune into that one. It was really, really great.
Yeah, it was a lot. And and by the way, Adam's got he's got a huge following on Instagram. He's always posting awesome stuff. So go I think it's Adam Hudson Official on Instagram, and then he's got the Unemployable podcast where he I think his segment is a couple of guys, but his segment is primarily focused.
He was blown away by how easy we made the process for him to become a resident of Panama. Like he had. His expectations were so high, and I think we surpassed them by such a high margin that he became speechless at one point. He's like, I don't know how you guys did it, but like, wow.
We spent a lot. Well, I'll give you credit. We
spent 9 months building that service. It wasn't done overnight. That's for sure.
I was gonna say Tony is and the rest of a couple of guys on the team were the ones behind that move. So all the credit to them. Tony, let's talk. We tie in Bitcoin into every story, but I do want to talk about this because I think this is something people pay attention to. If you're in Bitcoin, you're paying attention to things like the difficulty adjustment, hash rate, and the mining difficulty dropped by almost coming up on 8%. The largest decline since February, reflecting shifts in network hash rate and miner participation. Tony, I think for some people, this is so there are a lot of people I think are fearful of this sort of development because they see, because they see some of these miners saying, you know what, we're going to migrate a portion of our data centers to AI. And so it to them, it like signifies a loss in conviction or something like that. I think it's more opportunistic that they know with certainty what AI is going to do. The volatility of Bitcoin's fiat denominated price affects their margins. So I can understand why some of them are doing that. I think long-term, there will be probably some regret in certain cases, but I just view this as a chance to start solo mining and have a much better chance of finding a block. I don't know.
Long term, this is very good for Bitcoin, man. This is definitely not bad news. This is going to force miners to remove the inefficient ASICs, from the grid, replace them, get better machines, and give an opportunity to people who haven't considered solo mining to dive into it. I mean, now that it dropped 7.7%, this is the percentage by which your odds at home are of seeing these blinking lights and you waking up to clean virgin 3.125 BTC waiting for you, no KYC in your wallet. And so considering that, all these miners now are dropping in price and increasing in hash rate, even though the chances, of hitting a block is low, it's definitely far from zero. And we've been reading about many cases of regular folks, on a Tuesday afternoon, waking up and all of a sudden, like freaking out because their miners are buzzing like crazy because they hit a block. And so the only downside about solo mining is that it's very addictive. You start with one, then before you know it, you've got like a whole bunch of them all over the place and you don't know where to put them anymore. Some guys, they hide them from their wives. I had this one funny guy. He goes, bro, I put it in the laundry room because in the washing machines, make so much noise. She doesn't hear the buzz from, that's not what the fan. He hid them like somewhere up where she doesn't see them. And so like you get all sorts of creative stories, but no, like the recent ones are extremely quiet. So there's no worries on that front, but that's just like a unique story.
I made the joke earlier. We were recording banter that Tony doesn't do cocaine, but he does buy Bitcoin miners.
Oh, for sure.
It's a drug. Like once you get one, you want a couple more. And the thing is, some of them are becoming powerful enough that not that you're going to ever make a lot, but you could actually point to a pool and earn some sats every day. Like a 1 terahash bidax or something like that. Just play the lottery and just hope you find a block. But some of them are becoming powerful. They're not drawing a ton of power from your house or anything like that. You could actually just go earn some, no KYC sats. They're probably unprofitable at first until Bitcoin goes nuts. And then you're going to be happy that you've been stacking no KYC for a while.
Yeah. And the thing is now a lot of them are being integrated into everyday appliances, like you can heat your pool, for example, your shower can be heated, with a Bitcoin miner, like everyday things that you normally replace over time in your household probably have a Bitcoin miner attached to it. So why wouldn't you choose that over just a regular, dead end piece of electronics, where you can actually put one where your chances of hitting a block are actually above zero?
Real, yeah.
Yeah.
Tony, we got personal budget. We got to wrap up here soon, but personal budgeting is asking, when do you think he corrected this, the suddenly moment is going to
5 or 10 years? That could be any day, man. There's no, the way things are going, it could be tomorrow for all I know. I don't know. But I have a feeling, and this is something you can quote me on because I've been saying it forever. I think we're going to go from, people saying we're so early to Bitcoin to being, holy shit, you're flat out late in about 24 hours, the way things are unfolding globally. So if you wake up one day and the Bitcoin price, if you watch that is some absurd number, you'll know that the supply that's available globally on exchanges has been taken.
Yeah, I think my thesis on this is it evolves, and I probably say contradicting things from time to time, but here off the top of my head here, I think over the next couple of years, call it 2-3 years, we're going to see more and more surveillance. We're going to see CBDCs. We're going to see all of these things we've been talking about for a long time, like really be rolled out. Not like the surveillance we have today, not like the financial censorship we see today. Like the masses are going to be under like in financial darkness. And I think when that happens, we're going to. It's not gonna, I don't think it's going to happen overnight, Tony, because I think there are enough people who literally know nothing about Bitcoin. But over the course of, call it a month, the whole world's going to wake up and realize I need Bitcoin. And they're going to do everything they can to provide value and earn in Bitcoin. They're going to do everything they can
anything is possible
in Bitcoin. And I think over the course of a once like the prison door is locked on most of the world who didn't figure out Bitcoin, then the scramble to find the key to get out is going to happen. And then it doesn't take a whole lot of time for everyone to be demanding Bitcoin for everything valuable that they have. They're going to be selling things to get Bitcoin. They're going to be, Tony's going to start an OnlyFans page to get more Bitcoin. Like it's going to be all of these kinds of things very quickly. So I think it's a couple of years and then it's going to feel like suddenly in my view. I could be wrong though. I'm ready for any day. I'm ready for any day.
Man. But look, when things get dire enough, people will look for the solution, whether they understand it or not. It doesn't really matter. Like if people start hearing Bitcoin, 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 they're gonna go get the Bitcoin, whether they've heard of it before, whether they know how to use it. They'll figure that out later, as long as they can get some and know that they have it, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, like things usually in times of chaos, you know, like you can't really predict the logic in any of it because usually there isn't any.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. Elaine said, "Phones at the Bitcoin way will be off the hook." Yes,
Yeah,
that is.
that's a very likely scenario, sure.
Yeah. All righty, Tony. I think we're about at the end here. Want to be respectful of your time and everyone else's. We've got some meetings to jump to. We are always busy at the Bitcoin way, but thank you to everyone who tuned in. We really appreciate you being here. Tony, any parting words before we jump off?
No, guys, you know, don't let the destruction and the chaos distract you from what really matters. Nothing fundamental in Bitcoin has changed. In fact, all this bad news is great marketing and advertising for why Bitcoin is so critically important, you know, in our world. It's literally been put out there to save humanity, at least for those who are paying attention to it.
Absolutely. Thank you to everyone who joined, Ken, Claude, Elaine, everyone who's commenting here.
Yeah, guys, thanks all for chiming in. This is great. Please come back next time. Tell your friends, you know, the more the merrier here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let me just add. We usually post on X like an hour before we go live. If you guys could, if you see that, repost it, like it, comment, anything to feed the
algorithm. Like and subscribe. It'll help the algorithm, you know, keep this message going out to the right folks, and you know, push all this effort forward.
All righty, guys. Thank you, everyone. Tony, good chatting, man. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks, man. Catch you on the next one.
Cheers.